My name is Linda Jaramillo. I'm the Executive Minister of Justice and Witness Ministries for the United Church of Christ. Primer que nada, yo quiero decirle a ustedes, las familias, aquí estamos en solidaridad y nunca paramos hasta alcanzamos la justicia para nuestra comunidad. Nunca. I'm somebody's mother, and I'm somebody's grandmother, and I'm somebody's tia. So I can't help but take it personally. We need to talk about family here. We need to talk about family. So I thought, where should I start? Well, why not at the beginning? In the beginning. So God created humankind in God's image. In the image of God, God created them, men and women. God created them. If we all are made in the image and likeness of God, we are all God's children, are we not? We are all part of the same kinship. That Genesis story, brothers and sisters, is all of our story. It's about all of our families. It's about that household of God. We say in this country that family is the very core and foundation of our faith tradition. We are heirs, we are offspring. For every one of us, there can be no greater legacy than the glory of being heirs to the promise of God in God's so many names. So we have no choice in the matter. We have no choice in the matter. We are bound by covenant, brothers and sisters, to demonstrate the unity with God and all of God's creation, not just some of it. I know the business of being family is not easy. In fact, it's sometimes really hard to be family. We have family drama, we have family trauma, and some of us have experienced that, and believe me, I do not take that lightly. One family is not so different from others across this country. While there are exceptions, surely, most parents or parent figures want what's best for their children. That's what we want. We want to provide shelter. We want good nutrition. We want education. We want health care for all of them. We want our children to be safe. A basic family value is giving our children all they need to survive, and more so, that they might thrive in this, the richest country in the world. That dream has been the same for generations of parents who have immigrated to this country for hundreds of years. Whose children are important and whose families are valued? First question. Second, is it limited to only certain segments of former immigrants? That's my second question. Most of us, as you know, are members of immigrant families who came from countries all over the world in search of freedom and liberation and a better life for us and our children. Walter Brueggemann, an old, well-known Old Testament scholar, I didn't say he was Old Testament scholar, don't tell him, explains that the challenge of taking Scripture seriously means destabilizing the status quo. Brueggemann says and confirms that the deepest impulse in the Bible is toward inclusion. He says that the message of inclusion is urgent for this nation and this society because we have such a propensity for exclusion, which in effect violates both the American dream and all of our faith teachings. The building of walls rather than bridges really is quite the opposite from hospitality, wouldn't you say? Spending billions of dollars on fences that are separating us rather than providing housing, healthcare, and nutrition is quite the opposite of hospitality, wouldn't you say? My experience of exclusion is when I hear people who look like me demonized and dehumanized. Disparaging descriptions of immigrants such as drug dealers, murderers, rapists, criminals, freeloaders, illegal aliens are thrown around without regard for people's humanity and for the potential of inciting hatred and neighborhood warfare. Generation after generation, my friends, wages war. However, these days, beyond those wars, they are confined to this nation against nation. Sadly, the war we are now waging is against immigrants within the boundaries of the United States of America, and it is resulting in fear and hatred of one racial group against another. My parents recognized that social systems would tear us down, so they worked extra hard to instill a sense of history and dignity in each of us. Children who were constantly told that they're not as smart or as important as some of those other children in our schools and neighborhoods. As a child, there were times that the discriminating practices of our segregated school systems seemed insurmountable, but our parents modeled the belief that we could make a difference in our own destiny, and so we did. The truth is that many of us did not cross the border crossed us. I am proud to claim that ancestry and refuse to be a problem to the American society. When discussing immigration, we should review the history of the settling of this land, now known as the United States. We must not forget that the land was the homeland of our American Indian brothers and sisters and stolen by European invaders, part of my ancestry as well, ending authentic civilization for thousands of people. We should not forget that much of the western region of the United States, now known as California, Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona, was Mexico. I will not be told that people who look like me are a problem to the American society. We are the American society. We are people of distinction. We are not people of extinction. Many have asked me how it felt to be there. How did it feel to be in Arizona 3 weeks ago? A culture of fear reigns throughout the land in Arizona. Communities are afraid. There are those who are afraid of the police regardless of their immigration status. There are those who are afraid of the self-appointed militia groups intent on enforcing an illegal law. There are those who are afraid of the drug dealers and the criminals that they hear so much about in the media. And as we might guess, there are so many conflicting stories about the situation. So how did it feel? I was scared. I was afraid. I am afraid because this kind of anger and celebration will spread throughout this land. I am afraid that we will find excuses to exclude people rather than include them in our communities. I am afraid that the battles on Capitol Hill about just immigration policy will be even more hostile than those last year around healthcare reform. I am afraid the citizens of this country will arm themselves with unnecessary weapons. I am afraid that militia groups like the Minutemen and others will be allowed to grow unchecked. I was afraid when I was in Arizona in June, but I'm actually more afraid about what's happening across this land. I am afraid about what's happening here in Ohio. I am afraid for our communities here that it will require hope and courage and tenacity. In Arizona, and just you see tonight, community and church and other faith community groups, all of us are bound together. All of us are bound together, and we're growing larger and stronger.